you know. Okay, so we are now YouTube live. So hey everybody, let's see if your mic on. Yeah, there my son. Okay, all right. So we're on YouTube live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Ear to Ground 197. I'm your host. My name is Bryan Foley, and we want to welcome you on this beautiful second week of June on this beautiful day. We're right here in downtown Ypsilanti, and we got as Ed Sullivan used to say, we got a really big shoot for you today. I got my friend in here, Mr. Dave Strinsky of Ypsi Solar, and he's going to talk to us about solar power, solar panels, and what have you. And I'm gonna let Dave do the most of the talking and stuff like that. Most of you know that I'm an electrician, so I'm here to learn because Dave, I haven't done too many solar panel installations, understanding converting from DC to AC with the inverter and stuff like that. Yeah. But we're here to talk about City of Ypsilanti has a new program on how to get solar panels installed on your house. And this was from a gracious donation of a friend of ours, longtime resident, Grace Sweeney. Many of you may know Grace from her husband, Pete Murdoch. Pete Murdoch was a third ward representative before he transitioned. He's also a mayor at one time, and they were great philanthropists in the community, and they took a lot of money and gave back to the community. But with that, Dave, being said, talk a little bit about Grace Sweeney a little bit, what she's done to help our community just a little bit.
Yeah, Grace and Pete live about a block away from me, and great people, always very community oriented, always trying to help the parks and everybody, the schools. Grace was a longtime school teacher, and Pete was a longtime mayor and council person. Great friends.
Mm-hmm. So they had some money, Mama. They left.
Yeah, so it started with well, Pete had passed away already, and Grace was getting ill. And I was over there fixing her floors one time, and she's like, she wanted to leave some money to Solar Ypsi. And I actually said she couldn't because little fun fact here is Solar Ypsi is not an organization, not a 501c3.
Okay.
We're basically just a loose group of friends in Ypsilanti that trying to get solar to happen. And then she passed in, so she said she wanted to leave some money to Solar Ypsi. I said don't. I said give it to the city or somebody else, and then we'll figure out a solar project. But anyway, she passed, and the money actually went to Solar Ypsi, but the lawyers figured out that I was Solar Ypsi. So and it's an inheritance, so I don't have to pay taxes on it. So the money actually went to me, and then I just gave it right to the city, and we created this Grace Sweeney solar rebate program, which is going to be tremendous. So it was the city's gonna kick in a little bit of money, and we have $80,000. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create well, not going to, it's already been passed by city council and everything. So we have $42,000 rebates for people inside the city of Ypsilanti. So that's the one rule.
So you said $42,000.
$2,000.
So 40 individuals at $2,000 each.
Right.
Okay. All right. Got you. Okay.
And there's a couple of rules. I mean, I didn't want one big landlord to scoop up all the money and put it on its complex.
Right.
So it's kind of like one rebate per address. You could do it if you're a business or a homeowner or a nonprofit. So there's no restrictions on that way. And it would make a difference in the price. And so I've been doing solar for 16 years now,
Right.
and I'm always out there thinking, I talk to lots and lots of people. I don't know how many times I've designed systems and they didn't do it. And it usually comes down to money. What does it cost?
Right.
What's that upfront cost?
Right.
And so I'm always in my mind, I've always been saying, what does it take to get that person to get off the fence, and do it. And so this is kind of my experiment. I love it. Is it $1,000? Is it $2,000? Is it $5,000? I don't know, but we're going to shoot for 2 and see how quickly these rebates get taken up.
Yeah. So Dave, one thing I know is there's a lot of solar panels in the city of Ypsilanti. This particular building, the Ypsilanti Performance Space, it has a bunch of solar panels on the roof. There's 105 on there. Now, how much solar power does that supply to this particular building?
Well, this particular building, it does 100% plus, because when we designed the system, we basically just wanted to max out what we could do on that roof.
Right.
Knowing that the other half of this building isn't being occupied yet.
Right.
So the idea is that we just wanted to make as much as we could so that when that part of the building is occupied, it would take a big dent out of the electric bill. But so because that's not occupied, the system's actually over-designed and it creates way more money or way more power than it needs every month right now.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me, Dave, that
this is all solar power.
This is all solar power.
We're all solar.
Okay. All right.
And the sun's out right now.
And the sun's out. Okay.
So those photons are going right to your speaker.
Okay. So by 100% solar power, right? Does Steve, the owner building, Steve Pierce, does he get a DTE bill or,
So the state of Michigan has this thing called net metering.
Okay.
And you have an account, a utility meter, and then you attach your solar to your breaker panel, which is then attached to the meter, which is then attached to the grid.
Okay.
And so a typical Michigan home uses 600 kilowatt hours per month.
Mm-hmm.
And if you divide that by 30, that's 20 kilowatt hours per day. And in Michigan or Ypsilanti area, we get about what's called 4 hours of peak sun. So if I have a solar panel and this is my sun, right? The sun's rising and it's setting and it's low in the winter. But I can just pretend that the sun is parked right over my panels for 4 hours a day.
Okay.
On an average day.
On average day.
Might be 6 in the summer, might be 2 in the winter. If I need 20 kilowatt hours per day, and I have 4 hours to grab that energy, I need 5 kilowatts of panels to be 100% solar power.
Okay.
Pretty much as simple as that. And so what will happen is I'll put 5 kilowatt panels, that's about 16 panels on my roof. And I want to put them on a south-facing roof. So here's a typical gable roof, right? So you want to put them on a south-facing roof.
Let me show that again. I widened the camera, okay?
So this is what a typical house would look like, right?
Okay.
So these are gable roofs, and most houses are either, so because of the way streets are lined up, they're north, south, east, west, right? Mm-hmm. So most houses either have a south roof and a north roof, or they'll have an east roof and a west roof. So your best situation is if you can put your panels on a south-facing roof, and just put them on the roof. We don't try and tip them any particular. So anyways, we got 20 kilowatt hours that we need on an average day. We got 4 hours of sun. We need 5 kilowatts of panels. So I would put those panels up. I would do something like this, which is a piece of flashing. I would peel up my asphalt shingles. I would slide that underneath. And I put a rail on it like that with a lag bolt going into your roof rafters. And then my solar panel, they're a little bit bigger than this. They're usually about 40 inches by 70 inches. And then those just bolt on the back there. And there's usually a box like this that hides underneath. Anyways, I have all this on my roof. And like right now, those panels are absorbing the sunlight. They're creating energy. It's going into the breaker panel. The breaker panel has all the circuits for your lights, your radios, your TVs, your toasters. And if it can use the solar power, it'll use it. Okay? And if I have that extra handful of electricity coming in and there's no place to use it in my house, electricity wants to go to the closest ground.
Correct.
And so it's going to just flow out of my breaker panel like water in a bucket. You know, just the electricity comes in. Everybody's already happy. It's going to just flow out. It's going to go through your meters. If it was the old plattered ones, it's fun. It would slow down. It would stop.
Right.
And then it would start.
Now the old would start going backwards, you know.
And I've seen that.
Yeah. When I was electrical inspector for the city of Ann Arbor, I kept on getting calls about the next door meter running because, like say, electricity wants to go back to ground. Right. And what it was doing is that people had a lot of dimmers in there, digital dimmers, and because it was resisting the flow, it was going backwards and it was charging, going back over to other people's making theirs run. Yeah. Right, kind of funny and everything.
Yeah, and then that power, this is kind of a misconception. I want to make sure everybody understands. People think that when I export power to the grid, that it's going back to our power plant in Monroe, 30 miles away, but it isn't. This electricity wants to go to the closest ground. So when I overproduce and I push out that electricity, it's going no further than like 50 feet to my neighbor's house and powering their toaster.
Okay.
And so what that means is that this portion of the grid is just using less electricity.
Right.
And then the person shoveling coal at the coal plant takes a break.
Now it's going back to you're generating electricity, if you will. You know what I mean, from the solar panel.
Yeah.
And then you're sending it back to your next door neighbor.
Right.
Okay. So does your neighbor? How does that work? Economically, financially, whatever.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So under net metering with me, and this was up until about a year ago. DTE changed the rules on us, but it used to be what's called true net metering.
Right.
And so I could push out power at the same price and I would get it back. So basically I could get free storage. And that was beautiful. Right. DTE has changed the rules. So now I only get half credit when I push it out. So now I want to try and consume as much solar power as I can when I generate it. But if I don't need it, I push it out, but I only get half the credit for it. So it's still going to cost me something.
Oh, okay.
But Steve hasn't paid an electric bill in years.
In years, right?
Well, he pays like they'll always dock you for like $10 to have a connection fee.
Right.
And then although he's exported and he's got excess power out there, DTE won't cut you a check, but he's got like this energy bank account with DTE, and he just keeps building kilowatt hour credits.
Okay.
And so he's got thousands of kilowatt hours banked. And so now whenever the other half of his building gets occupied, he can then start drawing down on that.
Right.
And that's what happens at my house. So all summer long, I'll have an excess of power. I'll have this bank account, and it'll grow all summer. And then around October, November, because of the sun's angle, I'll be making less power, but now I can start consuming that bank account.
Okay.
And I'm paying like $10 a month for like
$10 a month.
Something like that.
Okay. Right. Okay. All right, man. See, like me and you need to do some bartering. Maybe electric.
I have about 40.
I know. Yeah. So
and so now what makes this even better is that 5 kilowatts of panels. If I were to call up a solar contractor, it would cost me about $3 per watt.
Okay.
For them, I do nothing. They pull all the permits, they do all the work, and so that 5,000 watt installation is going to cost you about $15,000, which is used car. That's a big price.
Yes, it is.
But now the federal government still has it in effect a renewable energy tax credit, so you can get 26% of that money back. And so let's round it off to a third. So if my 15,000. I do my taxes at the end of the year, I'm going to get 5,000, roughly 5,000 back. So now it costs me $10,000.
Right.
And now with this Grace Sweeney rebate program, when you get your final inspection, the city knows that your solar project's done. Now they'll cut you a check for $2,000.
Okay.
And so now it's down to $8,000.
Right. And
I'm hoping that's the price.
Okay.
That gets people to move.
All right. So I got one other question, and I see you got some other stuff over there that I don't know if you want to show your board or something like that you got over there.
No, that's the house.
That's the house. Okay. All right. So
yeah, we've shown everything.
Okay. So Dave, storage. So I'm sitting up in here and I've got these panels on here, and I noticed that you said, because we live in Michigan and our winters are long, what have you, we don't have a lot of sunlight, right?
Yeah.
So how do I store it? Can I store that electricity?
Yeah. So everything I've been talking to up to this point is what's called grid tie. So we have an inverter, and we didn't go into this, but the panel is going to make what's called direct current. So that's the same that's in a battery. Direct current means all the electrons are flowing in one direction.
Okay.
The stuff coming out of your AC outlet is called alternating current, and you want to kind of visualize that as your electrons jiggling back and forth 60 times a second. And so what we need to do is we need to convert this DC power into AC power. So it sounds like rocket science, it is, but you buy a box and you're done.
The inverter.
Yeah, so the inverter is a box. It's about 18 inches wide, maybe 20 inches tall. And it's actually pretty simple. I'm not an electrician, but I can do it. It's
Well,
more difficult than
I'm on the AC side, you're on the DC side, so I got that right. Okay.
It's no more difficult than an electric stove.
Right.
So I have a box and I have basically two wires coming in, positive and negative DC, and I have two wires coming out, which are the two hots for 240 volt AC.
Okay.
And so that's it. So this box is turned off at night. The sun comes out. Because the sun comes up, at a very shallow angle, right? The minute the sun comes out, even before it's up, in fact, in the summertime, people don't realize the sun doesn't rise in the east, the sun actually rises in the northeast. And so we have panels, now I've seen this with monitoring programs, the panel will make power with the sun behind it, which just blows me away.
Wow.
Because it's just picking up ambient light.
Ambient light, yeah.
And so now enough voltage has been created on this thing, go from 0 to just a couple of volts, and that's enough to turn on the inverter.
Okay.
And so now the inverter now does like a little self-check. It's connected to the grid, so now it's listening to the grid. It says, okay, I need to make power at this frequency and this amplitude and this shape. And then it starts doing. So that little trickle of power coming in at 8 o'clock in the morning is getting converted to AC, and that little trickle is going into my breaker panel. And now my coffee pot is solar powered, but nothing else is.
Okay.
And I'm still buying a bunch of power from DT.
Right.
But now as the sun is rising, my panel is making more and more and more power. So at local noon, when the sun is right over the panels, that's when I'm just blasting it. And the inverter's taking all of that energy, converting it from DC to AC, putting it in my breaker panel, satisfying my house, and if it's got more, satisfying my neighbor's house.
Okay. So like I said, storage. Have we got to the point to the place in time yet where batteries storage are affordable? And
well, affordable, that's a good question.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there are several installations in the city that have batteries. And so now what we do is we have this DC power. The thing to remember is batteries storage is DC.
Right.
So all of this solar energy now has to go through the battery. And then it gets stored. And then if the battery is full, then your solar actually shuts off because your tank is full.
Okay.
And then when there's no sun, then you start drawing out of the battery. Now, the thing to realize is that if I want to make my house uninterruptible, the power never goes out because these batteries. On a typical house, you're going to need a good sized battery, particularly if you're using like lead acid batteries. So you're going to have a coffee table, size of battery banks, and it has to be in a conditioned airspace, like a basement or a heated garage. If it's lead acid, it has to be vented for hydrogen. And so I'm not really for batteries, but right now they're coming there because they lower your efficiency, because I have electrical energy that goes into the battery. So I'm doing a conversion, I'm losing a little bit, going to chemical. And then when I pull it out, it goes from chemical back to electrical, so I'm losing a little bit more. Okay. And it adds a couple $1,000s to its installation. Right. So if you're worried about uninterruptible power, brownouts and stuff like that, then go for the batteries. But you can size it to ride you through an hour or a week. Yeah. So you probably wouldn't, you don't necessarily want to run your air conditioning or what have you, size it to that size right there. Right. Just enough to get your lights and keep your furnace running. Probably got a gas furnace and keep that going. Okay. And actually, some of these inverters now have an option that they'll actually produce, if the grid is down, and the inverters are typically designed to shut off when the grid goes down, because they don't want, the utility company doesn't want you backfeeding power when the grid is down, because when the person comes to fix the pole, he'll get it, right. He wants to grab the house and know that it's dead. I got you. Okay. All right. Didn't know that part. Okay. Yeah. All right. But some of these, to answer your inverters now, will disconnect you from the grid, but still make like 1 or 2 outlets live when the sun is shining.
Okay.
So you can plug in a phone or a computer or something like that.
Okay. All right. So before we get out of here, Dave, can you tell us how who is this available for? The Gray Sweeney solar panel.
Yeah, let's make sure that everybody understands it. So
right. Okay.
Rule number 1 is you got to be in the city of Ypsilanti. So
city of.
City of.
Oh, okay. Right. CITY, not TWP.
Right.
Okay. All right. City of. Okay.
And actually, I had a contractor call me yesterday, and someone called in saying he had an Ypsilanti address, and that's not the same.
Not the same.
And if you, it's funny. I went into Google Maps, and you just type in city of Ypsilanti, then it'll show you the political boundary of that, and you'll know if you're in or outside the box.
Okay.
Okay. So once you do that, then you want to call up some solar contractors. There's another organization in Michigan called the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association, GLREA.org, and they have a list of contractors. You can probably go to the phone book, you can probably just Google it. But so you want to find the contractor, you actually want to find 2 or 3 contractors, and you want to say, make it happen. You'll give them your electric bill so they know how much energy you use, and then they'll size the system, and then they'll give you a quote. You can do it 2 ways. I've seen people say, what does it take to be 100% solar powered? Or another way to do it is say, I got $6,000 or 10 grand. What can you do for that price? Right. So now once you got a quote, and I wanted to make sure that the money went to the people and not to the contractor. So we put kind of an upper limit on price of $3 per watt. So once you get that quote, then you give that to the city, and then they'll kind of reserve this rebate for you.
Okay.
And then the contractor does the work, and at the end of the project, you get the check, and you'll probably hand it to the contractor.
Great. Okay. All righty. So that's Dave Sweeney, my friend of Ipsy Solar.
Dave Strensky, the Grace Sweeney rebate.
Yeah, and the Grace Sweeney solar rebate. But like I said, if you see your solar panels here in the city of Ypsilanti, 9 times out of 10, Dave Strensky had put them up there.
Or instigated.
Instigated. One last thing. As far as solar panels around the nation, Ypsilanti is.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in the top like 25.
Top 25.
In the nation. So if we look at what we're making right now, 16 years ago, we had 0. Right. Today, we have about 1.5 megawatts. And if I divide that by our population, we're creating, I forgot the numbers now. It's like 75 watts per person, something like that. And if I look at a ranking of other cities, we're like 22nd right now. And so we're like on par with like San Francisco, Houston, places like that. So we're happening with solar power.
Right here in little Ypsilanti.
Right
solar capital of Michigan?
Of the Midwest.
Oh, the Midwest. Okay. All right. So like I said, I have Dave Strensky here of Solar Power. He was sharing with us about the Grace Sweeney solar panel rebate program, and you can contact and get that at the city of Ypsilanti. Dave, I want to thank you.
One more point is we have a website, solarypsi.org, and you can go there and you can see all the installations, and on we have a map, and you can click on any of those installations. And I tried to put lots of pictures and lots of data sheets. So if any DIYers are out there, you can see exactly how it was done and replicated.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And we want to remind everybody to put on Y1 into your comment panel. Why we asked Y1, because we believe in Ypsilanti first. We actually hit like, and we asked you to share. And we want to welcome everybody to Ear to the Ground 197. David, I want to thank you again for coming out on this beautiful sunny day. And there the solar panels are doing their thing. Yeah. So while we switch places, we're going to do a few things around here, and we're going to bring on our next guest in a minute. Dave, I want to thank you very much for coming out here.
Thank
you. All right.
Ypsilanti and all surrounding areas. It's time for the John E. Lawrence Summer Jazz Concert Series beginning July 1st through September 2nd. It's free, it's all summer, and it's all of the best jazz performances on one stage featuring Jeff Lorber Fusion. Join WJZD Radio at the John E. Lawrence Summer Jazz Concert Series every Friday beginning July 1st through September 2nd. On July 1st, it's the hot, smooth jazz sounds of Randy Scott. On July 8th, he's so cool, he's hot. It's Lynn Roundtree. July 15th, we welcome Paula Atherton. You don't want to miss July 22nd when John E. Lawrence takes the stage. On July 29th, it's the sexy sounds of Daryl Beebe. And in August, ladies, we've brought Yancey on August 5th. On August 12th, we welcome pianist Alvin Waddles. Later in August, on the 19th, it's Demetrius Neighbors. On August 26th, we welcome the horn stylings of Dr. Jesse McGuire. And on September 2nd, it's Grammy Award-winning keyboardist, producer, and composer, Jeff Lorber. The John E. Lawrence Summer Jazz Concert Series at Ford Lake Park, 9075 South Huron River Drive in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Starting July 1st through September 2nd. It's all of the best jazz, it's all summer, and it's all free from John E. Lawrence and WJZD Radio Detroit.
And we're back. Ear to the Ground 197. I'm your host. My name is Bryan Foley. And there's a couple things I'd like to do before we get into it. Let me find my stuff around here. Here we go right here. Ear to the Ground 197 is brought to you by Blackstone Bookstore and Cultural Center, owned by my good friends Carlos Johnson and Athena Johnson. Also my friend Carlos, I can't remember their name, Carlos Franklin and Andrea Franklin. I did a lot of moving around over here and stuff like that. So that's why we kind of look the way we looking and everything. I don't know why everything looks so dark right now. We're going to figure it out around here, what's going on. So anyway, Ear to the Ground 197 is also brought to you by Tracy Sweet Touch Production. Tracy Sweet Touch Production, uniquely created gifts for any location. You can find Tracy on YouTube, at YouTube, Passionately Intrigue Arts, Instagram at Tracy Sweet Touch Production, TikTok at Estella Fabulous, Pinterest, Miss Tracy E. Davis. You can email her at dallas2dakota@gmail.com. And finally, you can find her on Facebook at Tracy E. Davis. We got some lovely young ladies in the studio this morning, and I got y'all on there. Can y'all hear me this morning? Let me see. Talk to your microphone. Let me see if I can see y'all.
Good morning.
Okay, that's Peggy. Yeah.
Good morning.
That's Ebony.
Good morning.
And that's Keisha. All right. How y'all doing this morning?
Fantastic. Great.
Okay. All right. See if we can bring some light up in here. Y'all know that the studio looked a little different and everything through the magic of television, if you will. I had to move some stuff around and accommodate and everything like that. So we want to thank, first of all, Miss Calista Walker, Calista Marie. Kalista Marie Walker pronounced my name is Kalista, and she do all that stuff on YouTube, but that's my friend of our community breeds. And she suggested that we get you young ladies into the studio so we can talk about our students. And one of the things she was talking about, creating an I can generation. And Kalista was talking to me also about, so that school is out, once school is out, what are our children going to do and further and stuff like that. So I catch my breath. Y'all see I had to move this table in here, I had to move some stuff around and stuff like that. First of all, I'm gonna go around from left to right. I know Peggy, me and Peggy grew up together. Peggy Smith. First of all, Peggy, what do you do? What's your involvement? What's your title? What you do? You know what I mean? Okay, all right.
Okay, so my title is I'm a retired social worker, human resource director, and also I work with a nonprofit organization called Transforming Minds Organization. I do a number of different things. Also, how I got involved with Kalista Marie is I started working with Bright Futures from EMU and over at Erickson Elementary School. So that's how I got involved with her, and also with her, our community breeds. I did some things with her involved with that as well.
Okay, and then Ebony Burns, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I'm pretty good. I'm doing pretty good so far. Miss Ebony, yep.
So my name's Ebony Byrne. I am a certified financial educator and money coach,
Okay.
and I help women build
We
their
need to,
financial
me and you gotta
legacy
talk.
after
We
divorce.
talk, right?
Yeah, I got you.
You see my bank sitting over there, right? Right.
And so I've been friends with Kalista for over 20 years. We used to work together, and I am kind of on the periphery of the board for our community reasons, just helping our young people improve their literacy and just be more involved in their thoughts and education.
Okay, and then finally, Miss Keisha Dukes.
Yes, I am a elementary school
Okay.
teacher at Erickson Elementary. And I've been friends with Miss Kalista for about 3 to 4 years. She came into my classroom to help as a paraeducator. I teach special ed of kids who have emotional impairments or behavior disorders. And she was just a godsend to me right when I needed it. And so I started getting to know her through our community reads, or her work through our community reads, based on my relationship with her.
Okay, all right. So we got introductions out of the way. I'm gonna give it to my friend Peggy Smith and ask her, Peggy, what are we doing here this morning? What's happening? Run it to us right now. Okay.
Well, what we're going to do is we had discussed that we're going to start.
I heard y'all out there. I said y'all clapping over there.
So what we had discussed was we're going to start with Keisha Dukes, who is our resident special ed teacher. So we're going to start with her, and then we're going to go with Ebony, and then I'll end it.
Okay, all right, come on.
So I was so just glad to be invited in on this conversation because, of course, as a teacher, education is something that's close to my heart. But as I began to realize going through the School of Education, the higher up I got into my classroom or into the teacher prep program, the less people that looked like me I saw.
Okay.
So I didn't see as many people that looked like me. And so I thought,
We ain't see no black folks in
Right,
there. Okay.
right.
Okay.
And I wanted to teach
We
you.
don't got to do the political correct thing. We ain't not in here.
Okay,
Matter of
I need
fact,
to see
yeah.
some more sisters and brothers.
There we go. There we go. Okay. All right.
In education. So
Okay.
it was something that's I'm passionate about because I wanted to serve the needs of my community. And in special education in particular, there is a disproportionate amount of Black boys. I'm sure this is a known fact throughout all schools in the nation, in Michigan especially, but there's a disproportionate amount of Black children in the special education program. And so that was one of the things that I wanted to see how I could contribute to have that as a preventative.
Okay.
So I always wanted to be a teacher, but I did not see myself going into this field until I got into it, or this specialization. So actually being in the classroom and realizing that a lot of the challenges that our community faces stem from a lack of Black males, not only in the homes, but especially in education, in the classroom.
Okay.
And I think that makes a profound difference in behaviors that we see. A lot of the things that I think the perspective that most we have with our, let's be honest, most of our schools are filled with white women.
Yes.
And educating Black boys in particular, I believe there needs to be a certain understanding and way that they're communicated with so that they're not categorized and pushed into a special needs classroom when they maybe just need a brother or a father figure, someone, a male person that looks like them to kind of coach them and guide them and look at their behaviors as not special, but just a way of that they're expressing themselves in certain situations. I'm not saying that there's not kids with ADHD. There's definitely, some things that go on with certain students, but when there's a disproportionate amount of our children being put into special education unnecessarily, I think that there needs to be remedies at the root of the problem. And so.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it. We got the right people at the right time. All right, Miss Ebony.
So I'm here.
Okay, all right.
For my perspective, really, too, as a parent, I have a child in the school system. She's in public school, but I am also kind of seeing as a parent what parents can do to really kind of hone in. We're talking about this today. Really, just partner with their teachers of their kids. Right, that is not happening. You don't see a lot of people at parent-teacher conference. Now we have virtual parent-teacher conference. We were just talking about that. So there's really no reason that any parent can't go to parent-teacher conference. My daughter just had her 5th grade clap out yesterday. She's going to middle school, and watching these kids with their teachers and how much their teachers put into these kids. They were crying. They were sad to be leaving these people that they've known their whole lives. And that just got me thinking just overnight about how important it is that we as parents take the time to just at the very least get to know your teacher, let them know so they can advocate for your student on your behalf when you're not there, so we can stop putting people in programs when they may not need to be. I know my daughter had some issues this year because she's very bold, she's very outspoken. And so this is the first time we've got new teachers in the school. They started to try to label her as difficult, as argumentative. And because her teacher has a relationship with me and some stuff that they were coming back and saying that my daughter said, her teacher was like, no, I know she wouldn't have said that because I know her mother and I know how she's raised. So if you don't have that, you have to have that communication. There has to be that network. And how can we get more of our parents involved to help our kids so that they do have that advocate for them that will say, no, I know that's not right. You must have misheard that, and we need to sit down and figure this out. Because I mean, that was huge. So then that lessened my need to go up there and have to, shake my neck at people and be like, oh, this is some crap. So I think that that's really important to do.
Okay. Ms. Peggy.
Okay. So being a product of the South Side, very proud.
South Side, Ypsilanti.
South Side. Okay.
All right.
So in growing up, Perry School was the first school that I went to. Mr. Beatty was my first principal. Miss Tucson, I loved her dearly. She was a role model to me. And seeing a teacher that looked like me and was something that was very important to me. And then when Mr. Beatty came to a number of the parents on the South Side and said, we want to try this experiment to see how our children can interact with other children that don't look like them, my mother and a few others, and I'm going to give their names. It was myself, Linda Rich, Dawn Mitchell,
Linda might get Dawn. Okay.
Clarence Mitchell,
stayed up on Taft Street. Okay.
And Marvetta Tucson. We were the ones that went to Central Elementary. You probably remember that.
Right.
And we got there, and talk about being thrust into a lake that you don't know, that you didn't know how to navigate. We got there and we were like, what are we doing here? And we got there and the children there treated us like we didn't expect. Being second graders, that was something that devastated us. And so one of the things that I looked at was speak life into your child. And my thing goes to, as you know, Bryan, I'm really into church. Train up a child in the way that he should go.
Mhm.
And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. According to Webster's dictionary, it is written that train means to, I'm really wordy. So teach a particular skill or behavior through a practice or an instruction over a period of time. As a culture, it is common to practice for us to teach our children basic behaviors, okay? And academics at home. We know that all of our parents taught us our ABCs, our colors, our numbers, our address, our phone numbers, our parents' names, our neighbor's name, who to call, and where we live, how to get home, right? So over a period of time, we knew that if something happened, call my mom, call my neighbor. This is my address. This is how you get to my house. And so it is the responsibility, the concept now has been lost.
Okay.
Kids now, parental responsibilities, parental acceptance, parental concepts, they're lost. You can go to a parent now and say, okay, well, little Johnny is not doing such and such. What do you expect me to do? Well, that's your child. I'm expecting you to adhere to this, and this. Well, that's what I'm sending them here for you to do. But
to raise your child.
To raise your child.
Okay.
But no, this is a village thing. We're working together. This is something that we work together. Again, goes back to a particular skill or behavior that you work together, a training. So when we look at training, I say we look at it from a new mindset to examine how we can better equip and enable our children to be successful academically by any means necessary. So, of course, training means to treasure the uniqueness within the child and their abilities to teach them. Our responsibilities and collaboration between the parent, the teacher, the community, and the schools, and with kindness, fairness, compassion, and consideration. A, activate the giant killer within the child. And inside, by giving them information to form and guide that child toward the temperament that is inside them, to cover them while they're in the classroom and outside of the classroom in the community. Because like I said, when we got to that school, we didn't know how to navigate, but because we had parents who trained us up while we was in the home, we knew what to do. So when those other kids that didn't look like us began to call us those words that we was like, wait a minute, that don't fit me. That's not what my mother told me I was smart. My mother told me I was beautiful. My mother told me I was this. My mother, she didn't tell me I was that. She didn't tell me I was that. So I know those words that you are saying to me don't fit me. So I can put that under my foot. I'm gonna squash that right now. So I influence and shape that perfect and resilient and bold king or queen, that they may be born to be what they can do. And navigate that child in the direction and lead them down the path of positivity with words that echo good, that will take root like the seed that they are, in the spirit to conquer each challenge that they will face and empower them to defeat each challenge or obstacle victoriously. As parents and instructors and examples to our future doctors, lawyers, CEOs, politicians, police chiefs, business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders like yourself, we need to support them, uplift them, teach them, and lead them and nurture them, letting them know that regardless of what others may say and what they may do, they are cream la de cream, and know that
in the mind, body, and soul, today, tomorrow, and forever. Words spoken do matter, and they cannot be retrieved once they are spoken. We must speak life because we are planting seeds.
All right, okay. That's Miss Peggy Smith up there laying it down. I like those words. Very good, articulated. I want to come back. Miss Dukes, you said something, and what you said early on, and I want to dovetail everything that was said there. But you said something that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They've gotten to the place where they've gotten scared to talk about the role of a Black man in the home, a role of a Black man in a child's life. First, bottom line is as a father, right? Then, of course, as an educator and a supporter, right? So we know that unfortunately that there are too many absentee fathers from the home. Okay, I can testify to that firsthand and see the results of that from my own experience. You know what I'm saying? My one son told me, because I tell the truth, my one son told me, he said, I am the poster child of the deadbeat daddy. That hurt, you get what I mean? But he was telling the truth about from the perspective where he came from, right? So we know that a lot of our Black youths end up, as you were talking about, in special education, because a lot of the teachers, which are white teachers, do not know how to teach and how to relate to the young men and women at home, because they don't know what's going on. So they think our young men and women are acting out, or they're bad kids, or you get what I'm saying? Absolutely. But I want to go back, because Peggy, you said something. The reason why I said that, you said with the new mind. Okay. I got to ask, what's wrong with the old mind? And the old mind was, you understand what I'm saying? It seemed to work very good for us up until a certain time, what have you. And that time came in, and I'm gonna hit you, with the women's liberation movement. And it was a white woman who was seeking liberation from her white man. See, we didn't have no problems before 1960 because we was oppressed by the same people. And then many of our Black women just got hanging with some white liberals, some white feminists, and they began to convince some of our sisters that you were being oppressed at home by your husband. Many of our Black men and our Black fathers back then had to fight to just make a living. They came home, they was angry, they was upset, and unfortunately, sometimes they took out that frustration on the woman and what have you. So she's fighting at home, fighting at work, and now some things like that. And so that's how our family kind of got separated from where the father's going, saying that if you want to be successful, what have you, you got to get rid of this Black man. And as a matter of fact, we're going to make it even better on you by putting you on welfare. So we're going to give you some money right here, but that Negro can't be here. And then the social worker will come home and measure his shoes, make sure little Tony, he wasn't but 11 years old. What's these size 13 shoes doing up underneath the bed? So we begin to get separated. That was the beginning. That's why I was talking about when Peggy, you said the new mind. I'm talking about the old mind back when there was a man in virtually every home in our community. This is a new phenomenon, and that's what began starting there. Okay. So how do we get back? And I'm gonna ask Miss Ebony there. I see him moving around. You get what I mean? Robert Evans used to sing. He has a song that's out and says, "Can we bring it back to how it used to be?" Right, Miss Ebony. Everything I threw a lot out there, but can we bring it back to how it used to be? With this, or do we need a new mind? And I'm gonna, while you do that, go ahead. I'm gonna do something. Okay.
So here's the thing.
Okay, run it to me right now. Yep.
So I think the argument against feminism, right? And the idea, no, I know, but this idea that people have that feminism is what has destroyed the Black home is not, in my opinion, accurate.
Okay.
What I think feminism in general has done for all women is given women a voice,
Mhm.
just because having a man in the home is not always healthy. And just because you
Okay,
have a
write that
man
down.
there
Okay.
doesn't mean that was a healthy home.
Mhm.
So you have dysfunction that can
Okay.
come from a single parent home,
Mhm.
just like you can have dysfunction come from a married home. And we have so many people that are dysfunctional who came from married households.
Mhm.
So I think the question here we don't want to skew the issue and say that it was feminism that broke up the Black family. What broke up the Black family is that people realized they did not have to deal with things that weren't serving them.
Such as. Mhm. Okay.
So I know, speaking to my grandmother was, on my father's side, was divorced. And my great grandparents were divorced, but I knew them both. They were in my life.
Mhm.
They were divorced because my great grandfather liked the ladies.
Mhm.
And my great grandmother had an option to not stay with someone who wanted to, be with a bunch of other people. So that I would much rather have my women in my family stand up for themselves and not put themselves in situations where you have to deal with these sister wives, unless that's your life story and you're okay with that, right? So I think that's something else. There are a lot of other systemic issues that we can talk about all day that have contributed to the downfall of the Black community. But in my opinion, what has hurt us as a people in Black and brown communities especially is that instead of taking those stressors and taking them and having them be building blocks for our relationships, people didn't have the tools necessary to understand how to handle that stress and stay together.
Mhm.
So when you don't have other options, just because you see two people in a home doesn't mean that thing is happy.
That's right.
That is not it. I would much rather have two healthy adults raising children separately or together. Now, in this instance, we have an opportunity for us to get therapy, to get the help that we need as a people. If anybody needs therapy, Black and brown people need therapy more than anybody else. We have generational trauma that we're bringing forth. And so that new mind that we need to have is to love ourselves first so that we can be good partners for someone else. And if we're not able to be good partners, we're probably not going to be good parents because we don't know how to advocate for ourselves. So how am I going to teach my child how to advocate for themselves in their lives as they navigate schools? If I don't have care for myself, then I'm not going to know to go in here and advocate for my child. So those are, this is like, it's a whole thing,
Yeah.
but I think that
we're gonna go through the whole thing.
I think it's important that we have to take responsibility in the Black community for ourselves,
Okay.
right?
So-
Like there are people who had tremendous stressors on them. That's how we got here. We are the products of our ancestors. So we wouldn't be here if they weren't strong enough to do the things that they did. But when you really sit down and talk to people and hear their life stories and the stuff they went through and the children that came home and from other people and all this other stuff, bless their hearts, they stayed and made that work. But were they really happy? I don't know. That's, we can talk about that all day and night. I think the most important thing is first, we take responsibility for ourselves and our actions, period. It doesn't matter what Mr. So-and-so did to me at work. How do I then come home? How do I parent my child? How do I interact with my friends? How do I interact with my partner? That I have responsibility of that. I can't take responsibility for what someone else does to me, but I can absolutely own how I show up in my life. And if I choose to be a jerk, that's the best word I can use here right now, right? But if I choose to be a jerk about it, then that's on me.
So the breakup of the Black families, what you're saying is because a Black man, he wanted to have multiple.
I'm not saying that's the only thing that Black men do, but what I'm saying is there are so many other things that broke up the family than that. Yes, that was the example that I gave because that's what those are the stories I heard my
That's your personal story.
That's my personal story of my grandparents and stuff
Yeah.
that I heard. So that I saw and what that did, but they stayed married till my grandpa died.
So sometimes in this generation right now, people don't They want the easy way out. What I mean by that is everybody wants soft and candy and sacrifice. Sacrifice sometimes is hurt and sometimes rough. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And then we can get caught up in materialistic things, wanting things, seeing things on television. And sometimes a Black man can't afford to do those things. And then he becomes no good. He's sorry. He's not a provider and stuff like that. But we understand that most of our behaviors that we did came that exactly the reason why many Black men had multiple women. And that's true. Is because that's what the slave master did to him. He farmed him out as a buck to create this, go have sex with this woman, so he can better stop. So sometimes some of the things that we do were ingrained, not of our culture, right? If you look at our history prior to interaction of Arab colonization and European colonization, you see those behaviors did not exist. I tell people this all the time, straight up and down, that you don't find child abuse. You don't find a word of child abuse in our original tongue because it didn't exist. You don't find a word for jail and prison in our original tongue because they didn't exist. That's why the word didn't exist. But when you go back, you find that a lot of our behaviors that we did, and we're simply acting out some things that are unnatural to us and what have you. So I had to say that is that, you know, there's a lot of things that happened that occurred. You get what I mean? Because when you look at prior to the 60s, what have you, coming from out of, in particularly, slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, Black man couldn't get a job doing nothing, you know, could barely get into schools and what have you. So there's a lot of things we fought. I'm not trying to say Black man didn't come home or white man didn't come home frustrated from work and does some things. But that is the exception to the rule and not the rule. You get what I mean? So, but like I say, I can tell my story. You get what I'm saying? Like I heard what one of my sons said to me. You get what I mean? Because I kind of fit that stereotype at times, right? But there's some systemic things that were going on, didn't understand, right? So I see the wheels turning, and then hey, what you got to say about Ms. Dukes?
Wow, I mean, I'm just sitting here, I'm getting in line from both and everyone actually. You know, I really did not see myself being a spokesperson for the Black father. I was raised by a single Black mom myself, and she got remarried. And
but I said that because you realized that there was actual, like you said, some of the root cause problems by our children. We're talking about our children in our school because of absentee fathers or positive role model in life.
That's what I saw as the norm for what I saw with the commonality. What I saw for all of the ones, even the ones that in my classroom, and what I saw from everything that I observed in my training, that had mostly Black boys in the system, in the classroom, in the special education classroom. That's what was in common, and I saw the behaviors firsthand of who the ones who were most needy were the ones that did not have that role. And when I have male parents, especially Black male parents, the whole tone of my room changes, right? Because there's a respect that's automatically given for someone that comes in and just fits the role. And I'm not saying that just being a Black man is all that it takes, but there is a lot of weight in that alone from having a male presence, somebody that's gonna speak with me in authority and love, instead of looking at me like I'm just one big issue.
Right.
And unfortunately, I see that missing. And the ones that I did see, you know, making more progress, they had two parents in the home, or they had, you know,
a healthy, two parents, but like Ebony said, two people in the home don't necessarily make a healthy environment.
Right.
So I get that. But one thing you were talking about, you guys was mentioning Erickson School. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. My brother, my main man's right, Mr. Ryan Griffin.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep, he's been around.
Kalista wrote a post, and I'm gonna paraphrase what it said, but I think she said that James asked, was Mr. Griff coming to school today, right? And just that impact from a Black male being present in the school right there, where we're talking about that positive role models and have you in the school. Okay. So we can agree.
Mhm.
We can agree that a positive Black role model, a positive Black father, a healthy Black father definitely has an impact on our children's education. Okay. And one of the things that I heard it being said is because we're going into next year, okay? And one of the things that Kalista asked is that we need to prepare our children as they're leaving from out of school, right? To be able to have a healthy summer, and then they can return back with as healthier students, okay? You get what I mean? So leaving out of school, how can we continue to make sure that our children are in a healthy environment outside of school? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Right.
No,
That's
you're
what I was
fine, you're
speaking
fine.
of when I was.
See, this
talking
off the
about
cuff conversation.
Okay, so
They just
that's-
happen to be listening to us talking. You know what I mean?
Okay, so that's what I was speaking of when I talked about a new mindset.
Okay.
When I speak about a new mindset, I think about new mindset when we go from transition from one point
Mhm.
to a new point. Because when you think about leaving school from 180 days to a summer, because during the summer, they have everything and anything that they can get into. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So if we continue that same mindset of educating them, not only academically, but socially, psychologically, emotionally, then when they get returned to school, that next 180 days, they won't be in that same frame of mind. They'll have a new mindset. So you get them acclimated to new resources, like this yesterday, they took them to the black rodeo. And how many Black children have ever seen black cowboys?
Right.
Me too.
Okay.
But
All
not
right.
a whole lot.
Not a whole lot, right?
When they look at TV, what they see?
Mhm.
White men on horses. They don't see black men on horses.
Right.
A lot of people didn't even know there were black black men riding horses. They didn't even know that black people rode horses. You know
Well,
what I
it's
mean?
my understanding that the word cowboy was because it was a black men on horses. You know what I mean? And the word to say he's the cowboy.
Right.
So we start talking. But anyway, go
So,
ahead. Right.
and then last weekend, I took my granddaughter, we went to Detroit. They had a bird watching, and it was nothing but black people. Then we're gonna take them down to, I'm gonna take her to another thing, nothing but black people. I'm trying to acclimate her to seeing things that people that look like us, there's hope see. So when we do that, we have to get our children's mindset on things that these are things that we, people that look like us, can do. You don't have to look at those other people. And when you were talking about what your son said to you, I'm a poster child of a deadbeat dad.
Right.
Okay, we have, and I'm like Keisha, when I was doing my studies for my social work degree, my teacher was amazed. She was like, why would you do your paper on about domestic violence against men? I was like, because they're underserved. I said, nobody ever thinks about the fact that men do get beat up. They do get beat down.
Get smacked upside the head.
But they don't tell it because of pride.
You preaching now.
I said, because they don't want people, their brothers and other men to know that they got beat up by a woman. And that's another reason why men leave the home. That's another reason why you have separation in the home, because of the simple fact. Some men say, I can't deal with this. I can't deal. And I'm speaking.
You see me I'm trying to hold on to my seat.
I'm speaking for myself. There are some women that, like the Bible said, it's better to live in the corner of a housetop than to live with a brawling woman. Some women is so cantankerous that I myself will be like, oh, I got to pack my bags. I got to get out of here because you just too much. You just over the top. I come in the house, I didn't have a hard day at work, and the first thing you want to do, you want to holler, scream, cuss, and everything else. I've already had that 8 hours. I got to come home and deal with this. I can go to my side chick and she ain't gonna say nothing.
Hello, somebody.
So that's why men had side chicks. Because that woman at home is the wicked witch. So
hey, that happens. But then you have some men that stay in the home for the sake of the children. That makes it worse. But then you have these children that come to school and they see mom and daddy hollering and screaming, cussing and fussing, fighting and everything. What do? They come to school and they interact with children that maybe look like something. And the first thing they do, they want to fuss and fight and holler and scream and cuss at their classmates because they're interacting what they see. My mother used to always say that children are like sponges. They soak up what they see. So the children go to school interacting what they see in home. So we have to understand that whatever your child sees, they're going to exemplify when they get to school. And I noticed that working in the school, when a child came to school, if they had a good day at home, they had a good day at school. If they had a rough night at home, oh, they was gonna be the terror of the day. And most of the time I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to give you 3 days, yeah. I was like, okay, so most of the time I wouldn't give them 3 days because what I would do is I'd sit them down and I say, okay, so tell me what happened last night. Once they told me what happened the night before, I let them sit there, we chit chat. I said, what do you want? Do you want chocolate milk and a cookie or what? You know, I was like, so what do you want me to do? We want to talk some more or what? We talk some more. By the time the conversation was over, I realized your night was so rough, you didn't have nothing else to do but punch. I was like, okay, we're going to the gym, we're gonna punch then. And I let them punch I had a punching bag. And I let them punch until they got tired. We go back in, I was like, now you can go back to class.
So ear to ground 197. These are the kind of conversations that we have on the show. I don't know if y'all watch it all the time because these are discussions that need to be had, and we need to have them more often and more publicly. So because let people know that you're not alone out there. You know what I'm saying? Where and I wasn't trying to pick on Sister Burns, Ebony Burns, on the feminism part because we understand what that's about. Okay, and you know what I'm saying? But you expounded on some of the reasons why, or one of the reasons why men do have and what have you. But you expounded on what happens in the home. They carry that on to school with them. And I want to read a passage from this book. This book right here is called Candy for Dinner. It's written by Terrence Salmon, homeboy of mine. I want to read some of that. But before we do, we're going to slow down just for a second. Y'all got time? Okay. All right. So how many of y'all went to the Frog Island Jazz concert series last year? Okay. None of y'all went there? Okay. She did, right? Well, Johnny Lawrence, right, you can see his little thing right over there, Christmas Spectacular and everything. You see my appreciation sitting right there? Yeah, my little appreciation. Anyway, the Johnny Lawrence, what's called Summer Jazz Festival, has moved from Riverside Park. Okay, so I want y'all to say after me. Johnny Lawrence Summer Festival.
Johnny Lawrence Summer Festival
has moved from Riverside Park. And it is now at Ford Lake Park. Not Saturday night. But Friday night. Beginning January 1st. July 1st. Okay, so I was seeing if y'all was paying attention. All right. Anyway, so check this out. I'm getting ready to do something right here that nobody in the world has heard publicly. What I'm getting ready to do is release and play for the first time Johnny Lawrence's new release with Jeff Lorber. Jeff Lorber is a Grammy award-winning jazz artist, and they wrote a new song together, and it's called Leather Jacket. For the first time anywhere, Johnny Lawrence and Jeff Lorber, Leather Jacket. I want y'all to listen to this and check this out right here, okay? This kind of thing. And we're back. Microphones back on and everything. That was Johnny Lawrence and Jeff Lorber. That's Johnny's brand new release. Like I said, you heard it first right here on Ear to the Ground 197. And we had the microphones talked off for a minute, and I was talking to Miss Keisha Dukes, and you and Johnny have a relationship.
Yeah, we got history.
Okay, all right.
You need to call us. Call me, Johnny.
Okay, all right. I'll call him. He might be out there. Let me call him up right here. Okay. Anyway, Ebony, what do you think of that song right there?
Oh, it's beautiful. I
Okay.
grew up with smooth jazz. I was always the youngest person at every concert my mom dragged me to all the time. So I love it.
Okay. So Peggy was out there last year, out of Riverside Park and everything, and we moved to a new, a bigger venue. Is reason, you know, there's a lot of other reasons, dynamics behind that, but it's a bigger view and everything. Can you please ask Ms. Dukes to talk about the importance of parents to show up for the children? Okay, we're gonna get into that. Okay, all right. Peggy, what do you think of that song?
Oh, I loved it. I loved
Okay.
it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
All right. Like I said, we're doing things a little differently today because I had to squeeze these beautiful young ladies into this little spot up in here. It's normally just one person up in here. So if the production seems a little different than it is, because it is. But anyway, the lady asked to talk about involvement. You got that, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to read this passage, right? Because we're talking about children at school, okay? And Ebony talked a lot about the things that happen at home, and she's right. You know what I'm saying? On a lot of things. This is the introduction to this. And I want to read this right here. Okay. As I sit at a glass dinner table in the kitchen area of one of my 1-bedroom apartment, I look down at my medium rare succulent T-bone steak, homemade mashed potatoes with gravy, mixed vegetables, and a wine glass half full of Shiraz. My eyes begin to water and tear forms in my left eye. It slowly slides down my cheek and splashes into my homemade gravy. I thought of the times when me and my siblings were hungry, the many times there wasn't anything to eat. I'm talking pounding headaches, stomachs empty, and our souls long for nourishment. The times that the only things we ate was candy for dinner. That was book written by Terrence Samuel, Candy for Dinner, right? So a lot of times the only thing our children have is candy for dinner, and they come to school hungry. And it's hard to study, it's hard to pay attention, it's hard to behave when you're hungry. And so you as educators, you have to deal with that. Now that question the person asked for you, Keisha, I'm kind of just tying this stuff in. We kind of, like I said, we just freestyle conversation. You get what I mean? Ain't got no structure, ain't got no list and stuff like that go on. Share something on that right there.
You know, it definitely is heartbreaking when you know you are responsible for meeting these academic requirements for teaching these children when they can't attend because of those things, those issues. And so it is definitely burdensome when you know you have that, when you want to see them progress and they have challenges like hunger, like abuse, like so many other things that it, you know, afflict us. But I can say that we do have more, and I think Ebony was touching on this earlier. We do have more power and influence than we realize.
Okay.
And it is a definite responsibility to co-parent, or I can say co-parent. These children are coming into our classrooms and spending most of the day with us. We are like your second parent. You have to, we expect you to keep us accountable, to deliver what we need to deliver to your child, no matter what issues are facing them. And I think that that's probably one of the most empowering things we can do. There's a quote that I remember, I'm paraphrasing, that says, if you're a child that is educated only at school, is an uneducated child.
Right.
So we have there's a lot more responsibility that the parents, single or co-parenting, can have, and they can be empowered.
Yeah, and you said second parents, and I like that. I'm asking Ebony this question because I like diverse thought. You get what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Because I learned a lot. You know what I mean? But I want to ask you this, Ebony. I have a book at home. Jerry out here tripping. Jerry Green with his comments. I have a book at home, and it's a serious book. It's called The White Woman's Guide to Teaching Black Boys. And it's a real book. I have it at home. And somebody said it's 80%, I don't know if I'm right or, but across America, 80% of our teachers who teach at the elementary school are white women. Okay. But they don't have the same cultural experiences that we have. Now I was talking about candy for dinner, and you were talking about the trauma that they carry from home and school and being the second parent, right? Is it fair to say that white women can't relate to or can't teach our Black boys, our Black women? Is that fair? Because they don't have the same cultural experience. They aren't able to relate to. They don't realize that this children came to school and the only thing they had to eat was a pack of Now Laters that they had got from Bud and Joe's, or a bag of chips they got from Ford's store, and 99-cent Arizona tea. And then they come to school and they acting out on behaviors. And sometimes that behavior is taken out, not just on the school itself, if you will, but on students in the school and sometimes the teachers, right? Because they're acting out, you get what I mean? And when you don't have the words to express how you feel or what you think, and you act out. So is that a fair assessment? That's what I'm asking you, Ebony. Do white women have the capacity to teach our young Black males in particular in school?
Honestly, I think what needs to happen is for all teachers that are teaching, they need to be versed in the area that their students are, Black or white or otherwise. Because yes, there are majority white women that are teaching. The question then becomes, why is that?
Correct.
Right? There are more Black women in college than than ever before. Black men are also in colleges as well. At some point, we have to take responsibility. I am a strong proponent of personal responsibility. And it is easier for us to say these people are not able to teach our children, and it's their fault that our children are behaving the way that they are. It's going to be a twofold. Yes, there's systemic issues. We all know that. But I also think that there is a responsibility if you feel like these people that are coming into your communities that are teaching your children, they are your co-parent, they are spending 90% of your child's waking days with your child. What are we doing to make sure that those people that are coming in, because, I grew up in Detroit, on the southwest side of Detroit myself. And I had all kinds of teachers in my classroom experience growing up. But what I know is the people that were there and that were teaching, they knew our community. This is the 80s, right? But they knew the community. They took the time to know it. They were involved in the community. They understood the struggles that the students were facing. The problems that I think we're having right now is that there isn't this sense of community. People need to, if you're going to go teach in a school, you need to understand the community you're teaching in, regardless. If a Black teacher is going to go teach in a rural area where all they do is mine coal and do all this other stuff, right? They need to understand the cultural differences in order to be effective. So I think there's that piece. The secondary piece gets to be, what are our parents doing for their children? These are your kids. These are our children. And if I know that something's not right, do I just sit at home and complain about the white people that are messing up my kids? And they've never seen my face. I've never been to a parent-teacher conference. I've never gone to a school board meeting. I've never attended any of the resources that the schools provide. The schools provide so many resources for connectivity and for communication between the parents, the students, and the teachers. So at what point have parents given up responsibility for parenting? That is the real question. And it's not to say that, you know, we suck and we can't do this. We can do anything we want. We
Mhm.
made it to 2022 from
Okay.
slavery.
Mhm.
So we can't say we can't do things.
Mhm.
We
Correct.
can do hard
Mhm.
things.
That's right.
We have to be willing to do the hard things. So if we're able to figure out how to make amazing food out of scraps that are now being sold, right? We got soul food restaurants selling greens for $20 a plate. When we were
Yeah.
literally given the crappy parts of animals, we turned it into a delicacy.
Mhm.
There is no reason we cannot make our children's lives amazing. We can do it with $0. We can do it with hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what has to happen across the board is parental involvement, and that is free.
Mhm.
It doesn't cost you anything to sit down and read a book with your child. If you don't know how to read, we have Our Community Reads. Our
Mhm.
Community Reads has all of those resources on YouTube that you can go to and have those stories read to your child. And then you can have those conversations. If you don't like the books your kids are reading at school,
Mhm.
mosey yourself to the library. Your tax dollars are paying for those libraries. There's tons of books there that are available for you for free. You don't know what to do? Ask the librarian. You don't want to talk to the librarian and feel silly? Google it. We all can Google. You don't have a cell phone? That's okay. The library has computers. You can Google it there. We have resources. We need to take responsibility for our children. We want to see changes. We need to be the first people to do that. And if you're not sure how to do that, then you reach out to organizations like Our Community Reads, like Bright Futures, like whatever the heck else is out there. And if it doesn't exist, partner with your schools to create it. We can do this. We can absolutely do this, but we have to be willing to do it first and stop always the first step being it's these people's faults.
Mhm.
We already know systemic problems exist.
Mhm.
Okay, we know. So then what are we going to do about it? We have more opportunities now than we've ever had in the history of this country. We should be doing more with the opportunities that we have, and we aren't. So what can we do to make sure that our children can be the best they can be? Show up.
Okay. Peggy. All right. What can we do? Now, I went to Chapel Elementary School. And I recall Mr. Beatty came to principal at one time for about a year, at least in there. I had one Black teacher, and she was a assistant teacher. That's when he had the teacher. And then Miss Williams, you remember Miss Williams stayed up on First Avenue, on the house right there.
Yes.
She's my second grade teacher. That was the totality of Black people from kindergarten to sixth grade. Then when I went to West Junior High School, two science teachers, Mr. Carter and Mr. Thomas. That was it for us. Okay. Perry School, total opposite.
Right.
You could actually see, I could take a rock and throw and hit Perry School from my backyard. But because of the way the zoning was, right, we were taken out and we were taken into another school. Okay. So Ebony broke it down. We have all these resources, what have you, and you threw out some names, Miss Tucson, and there's a lot more of Mr. Beatty, and I hear them. There was one lady, Miss Patterson, Miss Patterson.
My stepmother, Odessa Smith.
Odessa Smith,
Yeah.
right. So, so what Kalista was talking about, you know, we're going back to school next year.
Right.
Okay. And our children, what are we going to do when they get out of school? How are we going to ensure that they come back next year prepared to learn, right? So in a perfect world, in a perfect situation, what can we do? School got out yesterday
Mm-hmm.
and it's coming back in September,
No,
August.
29th.
Okay. So we got 2 months. We got 2 months, Peggy, to prepare our kids so when they come to school, they waking up early in the morning, they brushing their teeth and everything like that. They had a full breakfast, they ready to roll, they ready to learn and ready to be educated so they can take on society when they graduate from the 12th grade. They ready, right?
Right.
We got 2 months to do this.
Right.
what we gonna do?
Well, I'm gonna give a shout out to Anthony Williamson over there at Park Ridge Community Center.
Okay,
They started a program. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but I'm pretty sure that you can get that information, and we're gonna try to get that out to our community because they're trying to do a program so that the kids can be able to go and get literacy, math, science, some what they call physical education, some art. I might be over there teaching some art. And so we're gonna try to keep them doing something during the summer. So to keep their minds working during the summer so that when they get back to school, it won't be a gap. When I was going to school, we had what they call summer school. Any kid that wanted to go to summer school had that opportunity. Like Ebony said, there's free programs. Ipsy Public Library has free programs. They send out a brochure that has programs for every age group, all the way up to seniors that they can go to. It's free. They have reading, everything. We have other programs that are available not only to children, but parents alike that can help them with their reading. If they need help with math, with computers, they're free to offer to the community. All you have to do is go. And they're open from, I believe they open at 9 and they don't close until 4 o'clock. So it's free. The buses run right over there to it. So it's no reason that you can't. If you're on public assistance, you get tokens. This and that is bothering me.
I seen it.
But you know, there are free programs that are available to it. The Bright Futures that I work with, they're having a program from June 20th, it starts June 20th through August, available to kids, free. They're going to be fed lunches and everything. So it's free programs that are going to be available to the kids. So any child, any parent that wants to get involved, all you have to do is tap into those resources so that the kids can still get those academic resources during the summer. They don't have to sit idle. Yeah, by the time they get home at 3 o'clock, they are going to be pumped up. They don't have to sit and watch TV. They don't have to sit and play with those Game Boys. They don't have to sit idle and get into some things that they don't need to get into. And parents, you can even come and participate, volunteer your time, be involved in your child's lives. Because I remember back in the day, I don't know if you remember, Bryan, but remember PTO?
Yeah.
Parent Teacher Organization. Where the parent and the teachers partnered together and they were working together, and everybody, we always had something to do. It was not necessarily just during the school year, but it was during the summer. So our parents and our teachers, they knew each other. So it was like, okay,
Okay, all right.
I want to just piggyback off of that.
Go
What she
ahead.
was saying is getting them into a routine.
Okay.
Keeping
Routine.
them on
Okay.
that routine and the schedule, so that when they come back, one of the things I saw after we came back from the pandemic, they were used to just being at home on a video game, eating whatever all day. So when they came,
Candy for
it was
breakfast.
difficult for me to just get them to come attend morning meeting with just being ready for that. And so even if it's just, but even if it's just getting up to just say, okay, this is what we do now. After that, just getting in a routine and not leaving them.
Now, we're gonna go back. There was Jerry Green. He put a comment, and what he said was, the parents are the captain of the ship. You get what I mean? The parents are the captains, and it takes the proverbial takes a village, and the school is a part of that village, right?
Yes.
Now we're gonna go back to, because of, unfortunately, and a lot of broken homes because man is absent or man is in the home that's causing an unhealthy environment. Okay, so but it takes two. Yeah, and get mad at me, whatever. It takes a man and a woman, a male and a female. I don't care what you identify as. Okay, male and the female. You get what I mean? There's dualities in there. We can debate that later on. I'm talking about my community. Okay, right. And I ain't trying to insult nobody, so don't y'all go call them folks out there and show up in front of here with no signs, because I know how y'all do, right? I said duality, male and the female. It doesn't necessarily have to be mom and daddy. It could be mama and uncle and cousin or big homie or whatever. You get what I mean? Auntie, you get what I mean? Grandmama, you know what I mean? But you need to have that balance in life, right? But anyway, how we get that that no good man, that no good brother, you get what I mean, involved into his child's life? I want to hear this from a lady, a female perspective. What we need to do? You know, when me and the brothers, we talk, we know what we need to do. You get what I'm saying? And I'm a member of a couple of groups, you know what I'm saying? We know what we need to do, but what do we need to do to get involved in our children's lives, right? Okay.
Show up.
You go, okay, now, when we show up.
Show up.
Now let me say this. When we show up, can we take him to the barbershop without asking for your permission? Can we take him? I'm throwing. You know what I mean? I'm saying.
Yeah.
Can I cut my son's hair the way, or take him to the barber that I want him to, without having your opinion on it? Can I take him to the game and not you call every day, at every moment, and say, is he okay? Can I take him to the ball game or what have you, and ask where y'all at, what y'all doing and stuff like that?
That's a dynamic.
Okay, all right.
Let me just, okay.
This ear to the ground 197, right? Okay.
So that's a dynamic that's between parents.
Okay.
And that, you know, that's an interpersonal dynamic that needs to be between those two people.
Okay.
And that's that.
Okay.
But what isn't,
You said show up. Okay, let's go.
show up.
Okay,
But what
right.
isn't off limits is coming to parent teacher conference.
Right.
What is not off limits is making sure that when you do have that time with that child, that you're making sure they're getting their homework done,
Okay.
that they are showing up for their after school curriculars, that they are involved in community events and activities. If you say you were involved in groups, not you personally, but you know,
Right.
the male you is involved in things, make sure that your children are also involved, make sure you just are there for them, that they know they can talk to you, they can come to you with their tender feelings, that they can talk to you about the things that are going on in their lives. If you don't have a healthy relationship with that person's parent, then showing up in the way that you can when you are able and being fully present with that person, don't talk smack about that person's other parents.
Okay.
No
I
matter
like that.
how crazy they are, they know, the kid knows,
Right.
right? So just be present when you're there
Mhm.
and take them to the library, take them to the rodeo, take them to things when you have the opportunity to do it. Your relationship with their mother, right? It can be what it is.
Right.
That has nothing to do with your relationship with that child, and how you show up is going to help that child be a better human later in life, because they're going to see that you were able to navigate a cantankerous situation in a healthy way. So they will model that healthy behavior. But if you spend your time complaining about all of the things that this person is doing, then that's going to show that child that that's how they should interact also. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the tools. If your life is in such a way that, you know, it doesn't give you the ability to be as present because of whatever issues that may be, you have the internet, you have email, you have ways that you can be there and be present for your child, barring you being totally like locked out legally. You can communicate and you can be a presence for your tiny human that you made. And I think that what we need to is that personal responsibility piece. I know I'm a broken record there, but we need to make sure, like, I can't tell another man how to be a father, but what I can do is tell you how to be a good human.
Okay.
So how can you be a good person? And that the way to be a good person is to make sure that you are showing up for your child the way your child needs you to show up, period. Regardless of what other mess is happening with the mother, that is independent of your relationship with your child. That is your choice. So if you choose to allow this person to ruin your relationship with your child, that is your choice.
Okay.
Yeah, to piggyback off what Ebony said, I think that in order to be a good human, a male, for your male son, child, is to be show compassion. When you interact with that child's mother,
But
Show
we
compassion.
supposed to rough them up.
No,
We
you
ain't
show,
supposed to rough them up.
no,
You
you
You know,
show,
we're supposed to be tough.
You can teach them
Compassion is
toughness.
Okay.
tough.
You can show, you
Okay,
can
all
show
right, okay.
toughness, you can show toughness.
We
you
they
show-
ain't they ain't supposed to cry.
No, they
should
should cry.
They should cry. Okay, let's get it straight now.
Show
Okay.
them
Okay,
Teach
right.
them how to be emotional. Teach them how to be compassionate.
Uh-huh.
Teach them how to be kind and everything. But be respectful.
Mhm.
Show them respect in front of their mother. I don't, like Ebony said, regardless of how you feel, you may think she's the worst thing in the world,
Mhm.
but show her respect in front of that male child.
Okay.
Show them respect. Now, what you say about her when that child is not in your presence, that's a different story, because you may call her everything but a child of God. But in his presence, your mother is such a wonderful woman.
Mhm.
Or
Right.
With a
you're
smile.
lying.
No, that's not a lie. You, in front of him, you
Yeah.
don't tell that child in front of him, because remember, words,
They matter.
they matter.
They matter.
Because the child is gonna remember what you said.
Mhm.
And to him, that mother is wonderful. You want him to think she's wonderful. You want him to think she's kind. You want him to respect her, because those are the words he's going to say to other people about his mother. And you teach him those things. Take him to the barbershop, get him whatever haircut you want him to have. And she's going to have to respect that, because remember, that's a part of you. This is what you want your son to look like, and she's going to have to accept that. And if she cannot accept that, that's something that you and she can later on discuss, and you can say, we can discuss that at a later date, not in front of the child. So the thing about it is, like Ebony said, be present. Go to parent-teacher conferences. Whenever there's something that can concern your child as far as academics,
Mhm.
parental responsibility, like she said, you have to be present at all times, not just for haircuts,
Mhm.
not just for taking him to hang out. Take him to basketball games, take him to the museum, take him to cultural things, teach him about arts, teach him about the world, teach him all these things that he needs to know about. So he will say, you know what? My dad was always there when I needed him, when I fell down and didn't think I can get up. I looked back and it was my dad's arms picking me up. And I didn't even realize he was there, but he was there. I didn't see him physically, but mentally, I knew he was there, because I could hear his words saying, son, you can do it. I'm here for you. Those spoken words, you have to speak life.
Mhm. Okay, y'all done said it. Ear to the ground 197. We're gonna get up out of here. And I'm gonna tell y'all fellas this: when you come pick your son, when y'all come to school, fellas, don't come in there smelling like no weed. Okay. And don't be driving around in the car smoking weed with your son. Then your son come to school, your daughter come to school smelling like weed. I said that. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about too. Smell like a 5-year-old boy, smell like he been smoking weed all day and night, coming to school and stuff like that. So it begins at the home, right? And that's why we are talking about, like we said, preparing our children from getting out of school so they can prepare tomorrow. We understand that it does take a village, and the captain of the village is the parents with the teachers, and they're capable of doing. This is what I like to do, Miss Peggy, Miss Keisha, and Miss Ebony. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rearrange the studio, and I'm gonna put my chair right here. Then I'm gonna take my other table and put it over here, and then I'm gonna bring 3 men in here, right? 3 responsible women, 3 responsible men, like you 3 responsible women. And we ain't gonna be in here trying to beat each other up. We're gonna come in here and find a happy medium so that we can build our families back up to where it used to be. Is y'all cool with that? So you know what I'm saying? We ain't in here talking about us against y'all, us against them, but we're gonna sit down here, we're gonna talk about this stuff. You get what I mean? So we can understand it, so we can carry it back to the community, so we can better our community. I know it can be better, because we need to talk about those things that Miss Ebony was talking about, Miss Keisha was talking about, you was talking about, Peggy, and we need to hear them from a woman's perspective. And then us men need to express some things from our perspective. You get what I mean? This ain't gonna be no bash, and ain't gonna be no us. It's gonna be it together, because we can talk about. And that's what Ear to the Ground 197 is about, to talk about those hard conversations and put out information. Ear to the Ground 197 can be found right here on Facebook and YouTube Live every Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. Sometimes I got to change up the date depending on what I got going on, this, that, and the third. But we here every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. to talk about issues that affect our community. You know, we started out calling the Ear to the Ground 197, but then I began to realize there are certain parts of Ypsilanti has the area code of 198, not city of Ypsilanti proper, but also there's a lot of people out there. And when I found sitting up here, there's a very enlightening conversation with me, and I know that our viewers out there found it too. You know how I know that, Peggy? Because ain't nobody in the comments talking crazy. They listen and they learned, and y'all shared a lot. And I just want to thank y'all for coming out, okay? And we're gonna do this again, you know what I'm saying? Because this was about, and I'm sincerely meaning that. So we want to thank Ms. Kalista Walker of our community READ for putting this together. So before we get out of here, I turn the radio back on so folks can hear. We get out here. Anybody else got something they want to share before I get up out here and have it?
Just thank you, Bryan, for having us all. We appreciate you giving us this space to be able to share with our community on our perspective about education and what we would like to bring to the people.
All right. Ms. Keisha?
Don't underestimate the power of presence.
All right.
So thank you for
And
having
then
us.
finally, Miss Evan, you got the last word. Yeah.
Thanks for having me here
Yes.
to share my vision, but really just show up for your kids.
I like
Just
that,
show
yeah.
up.
Okay. And show up in the right state of mind too. Okay. You can stop smoking weed for a little while now. I'm just gonna talk about it. I ain't gonna sit up here and, you know, I know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about too. You know what I'm saying? All right, Ear to the Ground next week. We'll see you next week. Okay.
More power to the people. You got to get the power. 197.
You turn the microphone on. You know, y'all, man, we can see it something.
More power to the people.
Yeah, I heard everybody say those words. I know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? I was at, you know, I go to the hood. Well, I don't go to the hood. I go to the hood. I get my pop and my chips and all that stuff. And I want to in the Chicago, right? Chicago, and
More power to the people.
I'm old enough now. That I'm saying folks don't operate their right now. And so I have to get like this to happen.
More power to the people.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? And I recorded it like I said. Talk to me with I really want to come back and like I said, and there's a lot of things that you need to I mean it, I'll say that. But how can we bring it together? You know what I'm saying? Because this generation right here, this is the first generation since enslavement that we're going back. And those of us who know that, if we don't do that, we ain't gonna be there. You know what I'm saying? We have to do that. See y'all next week. Okay, and we're out of here.
All righty.
Okay.